In the Absolute Universe, there are no Guardians of the Universe, no intergalactic core of space policemen, and no emotional spectrum. Instead, light operates as a philosophical system built around different paths towards enlightenment. There's the black flame, which represents chaotic action, the red flame, which represents restraint, the green flame represents correct action, and the gold flame represents total understanding. Pretty different to what came before, I think you'll agree, but it feels appropriate given that the Absolute Universe treats power as a question of philosophy rather than authority. Although I will add that there may be more to this spectrum of enlightenment than we were told, but more on that in a little bit. This story began in Evergreen, a town defined by conformity and institutional decay. When the alien Abin Sur arrived, he sealed the town off and began assessing its inhabitants. What first appeared to be a massacre was later revealed to be a cosmic personality test, identifying individuals who might play a role in a coming conflict involving the Black Stars and Mogo, the living planet. Among those trapped in Evergreen were Jo Mullein, Hal Jordan, and John Stewart. This trio discovered that the green light has limits, weakening in the presence of yellow and gold. When Jo's wedding ring absorbed Abin Sur's power, Evergreen was destroyed and Hal crossed an irreversible line by killing Abin Sur. That act bound Hal to the Black Flame and transformed him into a Black Star, although Jo later freed him from that curse. In the chaos, Jo fled to Coast City, home of her ex-wife Cameron Chase, a dedicated DEO agent. Meanwhile, billionaire industrialist Hector Hammond began investigating the ruins of Evergreen. He scooped up Abin Sur's oozy remains as well as the residue of Hal Jordan's transformation. Hammond also abducted Todd Rice, the sole survivor of the town's destruction, and interrogated him. Hammond identified Jo as a central figure and hired an assassin to eliminate her, but Jo managed to kill him. When DEO agents Simon Baz and Kyrie Limbo arrived, Limbo used her psychic abilities to read the assassin's corpse, letting them know that Hammond was behind it and he had been tipped off by someone within their own organization. Meanwhile, Todd Rice was submerged in the black residue left behind by Abin Sur and Hal Jordan's transformation, creating a powerful but mindless entity known as Obsidian. Using a psychic link, Hammond was able to see through the creature's eyes and control its actions. Through that connection, he sensed that Obsidian was drawn to Hal, as if the two shared a magnetic bond. At the same time, Hal had finally awakened from his coma. He was being hidden in a secret safe house with Jo, Cameron, Simon and Kyrie while they tried to decide their next move. Suspecting that their superior officer had been feeding information to Hammond, they began considering the possibility that they might need to eliminate him to stay safe. To better understand the green power, Jo asked Kyrie to examine the ring, but before Kyrie could fully explain what she had seen, Obsidian attacked the safe house. She was killed while still holding the ring, leaving Jo and co exposed. Simon tried to fight back but was injured when his mask was torn away, threatening to end his life. Remember how he said a curse had been placed on him that would make him die if he saw his bare face? Well, he's in a spot of bother to say the least. Overpowered, Hal, Cameron and Jo were forced to flee until Jo could recover the ring. And that is essentially where this issue picks up, with Jo, Hal and Cam running for their lives while the Obsidian beast is in hot pursuit. Now this is a very fast-paced, action-packed issue, but quite a lot happens. The very first page shows us that mysterious circle of light that exists somewhere in the universe. It is speaking directly to Hammond, well, more like pleading with him to listen. The headset he's using to control Obsidian opens his mind up to the universe. The voice identifies itself as the voice of Oa, and it lives inside of the Green Lantern, Abin Sur's vessel that currently houses the inhabitants of Evergreen. So, good to put a name to the voice. It's a small but important detail. Hammond isn't interested in hearing what it has to say though, he's entirely focused on capturing Jo. It's very clear that the connection between Obsidian and Hammond is strong, because he panics when Cameron shoots at him, as if he somehow forgot that he was operating a massive hulking beast miles away. His vitals are going through the roof, but he doesn't want to let up. He's too close to achieving his goal, and I really like how the doctors plead with him, but Carol Ferris tells them to leave him to it. Not because she shares his goals or ambitions, or at least I don't think so, but I suspect she hopes he keels over and dies, which is pretty callous. But then for a man like Hammond, it's probably what he deserves. Now the next important thing to note is that Kyrie Limbo is indeed dead, and Simon has had to MacGyver himself a mask out of tinfoil and cling film. Probably not the smartest move given how reflective the metal is, but I guess his options are limited to whatever was in their kitchen. Now that he has adequate protection, it's time for him to join his friends upstairs and face the beast. Not that there was much of him left by the time he got there though. You see, Jo was able to summon the ring and put up a very good fight, summoning a massive green fist to punch Obsidian in the face. But Obsidian could give as good as he got. The most revealing thing though, however, is that Hal intervenes. But he doesn't have the power of the Black Hand. No, instead he controls a pink light. He describes it as action without thought, or in other words, love. Now this is pretty crucial because in the mainline universe the pink light of the star sapphires represents love, so the fact that Hal specifically connects one of these philosophical states to an emotion, and it's one that seems to be unknown to the Green Lanterns, suggests there's more to these stages of enlightenment than we thought. It's also worth noting that Absolute Martian Manhunter has recently been delving into what could be the emotional spectrum, with Despair the Zero's blue representing despair rather than hope, which would be thematically appropriate for the Absolute universe. But that's a little speculation on my part and may very well be completely unrelated. The other knowledge bomb that Hal drops is the black stars are anomalies, those who take the power without going through the appropriate education, like Jo is a green anomaly and Tomar Ray is a red anomaly. Still, Hal's energy seems to free Todd, but it's not clear if he's back to normal or if his time submerged in the goop has changed him. Could we have just witnessed the origin of Absolute Obsidian? I mean, like the costumed hero, not the big monster. Yeah, maybe. It's at this point that Simon arrives and tells the group the Green Lantern has returned, but this time Tomar Ray is at the figurative steering wheel, and he says that calling it a Green Lantern is a bit of a mistranslation. He says we should be calling it a gun he's going to use to kill Mogo the Living Planet with, and he wonders if Jo wants to come along for the ride. So yes, very action-packed, fast-moving, and quite a lot happens in a short space of time. But I think that this issue has really just left us with more questions. What is the pink flame, if it even is a flame? What's next for Todd Rice? Does Tomar Ray plan to take all of them with him to kill the Black Stars, or just Jo? That's one of the things I like about this series. While I was a little iffy on it for the first 6 or so issues, with its very rigid format of jumping around in time, since the world opened up to include the Coast City cast and space combat with the Black Stars, I've enjoyed the book a lot more. The path to enlightenment in this universe was supposed to be clear and orderly, but with new colours appearing, anomalies rewriting the rules, and a living weapon aimed at a planet, it's starting to look a lot more complicated than anyone expected. Absolute Green Lantern 12 is available now from all good comic shops. I would encourage you to research your local comic shop, and if you don't have one, I'm certain there are dozens of good stores nearby that would be happy to mail you your comics. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this one digitally from places like Amazon as well as Neon Ishiban. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do like the convenience of having thousands of comic books accessible from my phone. But you do what works best for you. For those interested in my physical collection, I swung by Gosh Comics again to root through the remainder of their Batman event items and found 2 Batman the Animated Series soundbooks. Yeah, they're not comic books, I know, but we all know how much I love Batman the Animated Series. The Minotaur book worked fine, but the Fabergé egg doesn't work as well, but it seems to capture my cat's attention well enough. Next time. I'll be back shortly with a video about Bleeding Hearts number 2 from Dennis Camp, the writer of Absolute Martian Manhunter. This is the story of a zombie named Poke who discovers that his heart has started beating again. As a consequence, he wonders if being a flesh-eating, shambling corpse is really the best use of his time. And next week is actually kind of a big deal with the launch of DC's Next Level initiative in the mainline universe. 3 new series are starting: Lobo, Batwoman and Deathstroke the Terminator. So I'm going to try to talk about them because I think some of you will be into them. Oh yeah, and there's an issue of Absolute Flash coming out too. Hope to see you then.